Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. Here are the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Listless trade on Dalal Street as the Sensex drops below 80,000. The Nifty down by over 120 points. Mid-caps continue to outperform. Israeli tanks enter the outskirts of a village in southern Lebanon in their deepest incursion yet. U.S. envoy to the United Nations says Israel is not addressing the catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Gaza. This comes on a day after 93 people were killed in an attack on a residential building in northern Gaza. Oil marketing companies cut intrastate freight rates for transporting fuel to remote areas. This will help cool petrol and diesel prices. The government asks OMCs to cap the price difference on fuel at 2 rupees a litre within a state. FMCG major Dabur reports a 5% drop in revenue and a 17% drop in profits. Volumes decline over 7%, but this is better than street estimates of a double-digit decline. Google's parent Alphabet reports a robust third quarter. Cloud business helps revenue rise 15% to over $88 billion. CEO Sundar Pichai says 25% of new code is being done by AI. Swiggy says its growth blueprint ahead of the 11,000 crore rupee IPO that opens on the 6th of November. The company expects quick commerce to drive growth and food delivery to drive margins. Plans to open 1,500 dark stores within a year. With less than a week to go for the U.S. elections, Kamala Harris calls Donald Trump a petty tyrant and makes her case for a new generation of leadership. In a speech at Washington, D.C., U.S. President Joe Biden attempts to clarify after a video appears to show him insulting Trump supporters as garbage. Musical chairs across several seats in Maharashtra as alliance partners file nomination papers for the same seats. At least 9 such seats in Mumbai city alone. Many leaders file papers as independent candidates after being snubbed by their parties. This includes former BJP MP Gopal Shetty, who filed his nomination from Borivali as an independent candidate. A lacklustre day on Dalal Street. The Nifty and the Sensex ending 0.5% lower, with financials being the big underperformance today. So let's take a look at the Nifty Bank. That index was down over 1%. Mid-caps did, however, fare better. That's the Nifty for you, down 126. The Sensex losing about 430 points. The Nifty Bank down by about 500 points, and mid-caps up by, well, actually just about flat, but at least closing in the green. Prashant is standing by now with the market action. Prashant, lackluster trade on Choti Diwali.
No real sense of direction through the course of the day because, in the morning at 9:15 it was down sharply, then it was up sharply, and then there was another round of selling when the market ending about 100 plus odd points lower in that vicinity. Nifty Bank also something similar. Yesterday, of course, was very strong for the Bank Nifty, but today the index spent most of its time within yesterday's large range. Within the highs and lows of yesterday. Mid-cap and small caps, much better day. Actually not just mid and small caps, but even micro caps. So, smaller the better today, and long list of gainers in that part of the market. I'll start with the stocks in the large cap Nifty space. So Adani Enterprises was a winner. Tata Consumer did well. There was Britannia, which did well. Hero MotoCorp, we get sales numbers for monthly sales numbers day after tomorrow, and Hero has been smashed to bits. And I think there was some rebound there. We'll see what the numbers tell us. But Indusen was the other one, which of course had a pretty tough last week, which came back. On the downside, Cipla was down. Trent was lower. Again, as I said, flip-flop, right? Yesterday, life insurers did well. Today, they were down. So HDFC Life and SBI Life both were some of the top Nifty losers. And there was another financial name, Shriram Finance, which had a good session yesterday, which was down as well. Broader market, advances far outnumbered declines. So I'll start with what was up. IRFC, Poonawalla FinCorp, your data patterns, Reddington, Polymed was up 10%. Action Construction Equipment, big mover, 20% on Force Motors, UTI, AMC, but I didn't find any other AMC stocks higher. This one was sharply up. Radico was up 10%, Ease My Trip, Spandana, Spurti, and GHCL were some of the other gainers today. On the downside, you had Dixon, which was down. Amber was down on both of these, 4-5% cuts. Voltas was another name in the consumer durable space, which was lower. Torrent Pharma, MCX, Five Star Finance, and REC were some of the others, which were down on mostly profit booking. So a lackluster, directionless day. But will the market find direction with so many big events lined up right over the next 5 sessions? That's the question. Back to you.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. Well, that was the market action, but let's talk about gold prices. International gold prices scaling new peaks again as safe haven buying continues to spur the yellow metal. Investors are jittery ahead of the US elections, with polls pointing to a dead heat between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Geopolitical tensions also fueling the uncertainty. Silver prices, meanwhile, remain closer to record levels, so that's the action in the commodity market. And Bitcoin briefly climbed above the $73,000 mark, nearing its all-time high. This after investors poured billions into Bitcoin exchange-traded funds in anticipation of the US election result. The world's largest cryptocurrency last hit a record high in March this year. Remember, former President Donald Trump has been portraying himself as the pro-crypto candidate. Kamala Harris has also made several statements endorsing the cryptocurrencies as well. On to the tensions in West Asia. Israel has continued to deepen its offensive in southern Lebanon, killing at least 15 people in its latest spate of attacks in the region. The Israeli military has also bombed another residential building in Gaza, killing at least 19 people. The attack comes less than a day after the IDF bombed a 5-story building in the same area, killing at least 93 people and wounding dozens. Meanwhile, reports suggest that a drone has exploded in an industrial area in Israel. The drone hit a factory that was used to produce aircraft components. On to action from the oil market. Oil prices steady after 2 sessions of losses. However, prices are still around 1-month lows. They did stabilize on account of a surprise drop in US crude inventories, but the prospect of hostilities easing in the Middle East have kept the gains in check. Well, back home, onto a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Oil marketing companies have reduced the intra-state freight charges. Now, this will help reduce fuel prices in remote areas, but within a state. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the variation in retail prices of fuel will not vary over 2 rupees a litre within a state. Sapna joins us now to explain this to us. Sapna.
We are given to understand that OMCs have been told to, make sure that the price variation within a state is not more than 2 rupees a litre on petrol and diesel. By price variation, we mean over here that in the far-flung remote areas of the country, many a time historically, the fuel prices have been on the higher side because of higher transportation costs. So here the price differentiation can be as high as anywhere between 2 to 6 odd rupees a litre of petrol and diesel. So to correct that price anomaly, the OMCs have actually reduced the freight costs, and that benefit is going to be passed on to consumers in the shape of lower fuel prices on the retail side. However, what needs to be kept in mind is that some kind of cross-subsidization is going to be done by the oil marketing companies to make up for this passing on the price benefit to consumers. So maybe in the densely populated areas, or where the petrol pumps or where the consumers have a very close proximity to petrol pumps, or where the sales are very high, there you may actually see the retail fuel prices move up very marginally by around 6 to 7 paise a litre. So 2 aspects. One, you cannot have a price variation of over 2 rupees a litre in within a state. That's one. Second, cross subsidization is likely for the OMCs to make up this kind of price benefit that they'll be giving to consumers in the remote and far-flung areas.
Rate rationalization, which was being done for a zone, that would mean that the remote locations would have the higher freight element, and
yes.
Therefore the pricing will be different in different zones. Within a zone it will be same, but in different zones it will be different. So what I understand is that this rationalization, which is within the zone, is still there is some rationalization done, but it will be done on a larger area so that the inequality of the prices between different areas will be reduced. Now, overall, as far as oil marketing companies are concerned, on a rationalization, it will even out. Means some places where it was low, it will become slightly higher, and other places it was high, it will become lower. Except that, so overall, our marketing companies, it will get nullified.
Well, that's the latest on the implications of what this change in freight charges means as far as fuel prices are concerned. Swiggy is all set to launch its 11,000 crore rupee IPO next week. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Swiggy's management revealed the company's growth blueprint. It also expects quick commerce to drive growth and food delivery to drive margins. Take a look.
While they have turned contribution positive for the food delivery business, as they say on the street, and EBITDA. On the street, they say, "Ye dil mange more," right? Now that you're listing, you also have a listed peer. With the trajectory that we've seen on them, on a lot of the parameters, they're above, what Swiggy is right now, which is not to say that you're any less. It's just that you're on different stages of growth in your life.
Correct. I think, look, there's a lot of context. We each have our own context, and we are in very, very exciting categories. And our strategy, our capital allocation, everything's going to be a function of our excitement and what we can go after in each of these. Like Rahul mentioned, we've demonstrated the profitability in the food business. We feel good about its future going forward. As for quick commerce, I think it's in a once in a lifetime category, and I think we are seeing consumption patterns change for consumers, and there's so much to be done. So our endeavor will be to make sure that we do the fullest of our ability to make sure that we grow and serve customers well and make sure that everything comes together nicely.
But for quick commerce, you recently said that the peak of the investment is behind you,
That's
but
right.
you're still not a contribution margin positive either. So, I mean, what is the trajectory there for quick commerce? Because even for your peer, that has been the growth driver, right? So how are you looking at the quick commerce business for you in terms of is it also going to be the growth driver for you? And sort of trying to get a sense of the path of profitability on that front also.
See, maybe I'll take this. I think on quick commerce, what really amazes us is the way consumers are reimagining, things, or what can be delivered to them. So it's almost like every quarter we have to recalibrate around, what is the number of categories that we have to be there, what is the number of SKUs we have to launch, and there's a recalibration happening. Growth is accelerating. So there'll be a certain amount of, say, new store additions that we'll continue to do. The old stores continue to mature well, which means that they become profitable over a period of time, and the new stores come in because consumers want a lot more.
Right.
So I think it's a recalibration of our overall growth trajectory in line with the demonstrated path to the contribution margin that we continue to demonstrate.
Well, that's the Swiggy top team on that much-awaited IPO, and you can catch more at 5:30 p.m. That's coming up on CNBC-TV18. Let's switch focus now to earnings. FMCG major Dabur reported a soft second quarter, but the numbers were largely in line with estimates. Revenue down by more than 17%, profits down over 5%, volumes declined by over 7%, but the decline in volumes was not as bad as the street was expecting, where some analysts had actually pegged a double-digit decline. Mangalam is standing by now to decode Dabur's numbers for us. Mangalam.
Well, Dabur came out with their numbers just towards the end of market. The stock mildly in the green, and that's largely because of two reasons. One, the volume decline was lower than feared. Volume decline was 7.5%. The street was expecting about 8 to 10% decline. Secondly, the overall results, which were soft, but were well prepared by the street, by the company in its second quarter update itself. So if you look at the stock price move, it was down about 12-13% in the month preceding these numbers itself. So maybe there was a bit of a relief out there. Additionally, the company has gone ahead and announced an acquisition of Sesa Ayurvedic Oil for an enterprise value of anywhere around 315 to 325 crores, implying a net cash outlay of no more than 40 to 50 crores. Given the debt that they have on their books is close to 290 crores, will be interesting to see where they scale this business up from the 133 crore revenue run rate that it did in FY24 itself. As far as the reported numbers are concerned, revenue is a little under 3,030 crores, mildly below street expectations. The EBITDA was largely in line. The net profit was softer than street expectations as well. But the secondary sales of the company in the second quarter grew by 2%, with rural demand outpacing urban demand by 130 basis points during the quarter.
Mangalam, many thanks for joining us. That is Dabur for you. And we are going to now talk about Marico. The stock ended the day in the green after the FMCG giant reported a 20% jump in net profit on an annual basis. The volumes rose by 5% on the back of strong rural demand. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, the company's CEO Saugata Gupta said that while rural demand is up, there is some stress in urban consumption on account of food inflation. Take a look.
At the top end, I think, and which is also driven a lot by e-commerce, quick commerce, and modern trade, we are not seeing any significant reduction in consumption. At the end of, but in the middle class, I think because of a combination of, I would say, food inflation and overall retail inflation, we are seeing some stress. Having said that, I think once the inflation goes away, I believe that it will recover.
Well, in global earnings, Google's parent Alphabet reporting a very strong set of numbers in the third quarter, registering a beat across all parameters. This was aided by a 35% rise in the company's cloud revenue. Overall revenue grew 15%, while net income rose to $26.3 billion on an annual basis. In an earnings call, Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai said that more than 25% of Google's new code is being generated by artificial intelligence, adding that Google's long-term focus and investment in AI are paying off, and this is driving success for the company and its customers. The Telecom Department has floated a draft cabinet note seeking the waiver of bank guarantees that telcos must submit for the payment of spectrum acquired before 2022. Now, this according to sources who say that the note has been shared with the Law and the Finance Ministries for their feedback. Remember, approval of the bank guarantee waiver will require a cabinet decision. The move is expected to largely benefit Vodafone Idea, which needs to secure bank guarantees worth 27,000 crore rupees in the coming months. E-commerce platform Meesho has reported positive operating cash flow of 232 crore rupees in FY24. The SoftBank-backed startup also registered a 33% rise in operating revenues in the financial year, and this revenue surge was fueled by a 35% increase in total orders delivered. That is, adjusted losses also narrowed by nearly 97% to 53 crore rupees. We will head into a break, but up next, musical chairs across several seats in Maharashtra as alliance partners file nomination papers for the same seats. That and more when we return. The Central Consumer Protection Authority is examining complaints registered against EV OEMs. Government sources have said that further action against these companies will be based on the number and nature of consumer complaints that are pending before the authority. The centre could also finalise the course of action very soon. Now, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's National Security and Intelligence Advisor have admitted to leaking sensitive information about India's alleged hostile activities in Canada to news organisation The Washington Post. The Deputy Ministers Natalie Drouin and David Morrison made the confession while testifying before the Commons Public Safety Committee. Their statements had also allegedly implicated Home Minister Amit Shah, who they said was orchestrating the actions from New Delhi. The Indian government has dismissed the allegations as baseless during the testimony. Drouin said that she did not require Trudeau's permission to disclose the information and emphasized that no classified intelligence was shared with the Washington Post. With less than a week to go for the U.S. elections, opinion polls show a tight race between presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, with a slight edge to Trump. The latest polls show tight races between the two candidates in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and North Carolina. In her final pitch to American voters ahead of the elections, Harris called Donald Trump a petty tyrant and made her case for a new generation of leadership. The vice president also vowed to govern as a pragmatist who listens to those who disagree with her. Meanwhile, Trump campaigned in Pennsylvania in an effort to quell anger over comedian's remarks about Puerto Rico at one of his rallies. With 19 electoral votes and no specific tilt to either candidate, Pennsylvania is expected to be the deciding factor this election season.
And I'm so proud that we're getting support from Latinos like never before. We're setting every record. Hispanics, Latinos. Nobody loves our Latino community and our Puerto Rican community more than I do. Nobody.
Nearly 250 years ago, America was born when we wrested freedom from a petty tyrant. Across the generations, Americans have preserved that freedom, expanded it, and in so doing, proved to the world that a government of, by, and for the people is strong and can endure.
Well, as I was mentioning earlier, Pennsylvania is expected to hold the key to the White House. The state has acted as a bellwether in the last 4 elections. Which way will it sway this time? My colleague Sanjay Suri gets us this curtain raiser from Philadelphia in Pennsylvania.
A long voting queue already outside the City Hall in Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, the state where the outcome could make all the difference. Who wins Pennsylvania gets to the White House. Certainly that is what a lot of the poll pundits seem to believe. In the 2020 election, this was won by the Democrats by the razor-thin margin of just 1%, and the margin could well be narrower this time. Some entertainment was volunteered to beat some of the frustration of that long queuing. Many of those queuing were making a bid for a last option of a mail ballot. Tuesday was the last day to apply for that option in Pennsylvania in an arrangement unique to the state. Anyone who missed these options after queuing would have then to vote in person on November the 5th. The long early queues could have been fed to a considerable extent by a call from Donald Trump to supporters to come and vote early. But Democrats too mobilized voters, making it hard to see definitively which political direction the queue pointed.
Now, Washington Post continues to lose subscribers and the total tally has hit 250,000 so far. This accounts for 10% of the company's total subscribers. This move's come the day after Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos defended the company's move to stop making presidential endorsements. In an op-ed, Bezos said presidential endorsements created the perception of bias. Now, the U.S. has repatriated over 1,100 Indian nationals between October 2023 and September 24. This has marked a notable rise in deportation of Indian nationals over recent years. The U.S. Assistant Secretary for Border and Immigration Policy, Royce Murray, said that there's been a steady increase in deportation of illegal Indian immigrants from the U.S. He added that the U.S. government is continuing to strengthen its working relationship with the Indian government to tackle the issue. With 3 weeks to go for the elections in Maharashtra, the deadline to file nominations is over, but chaos is ensuing among parties as alliance partners have filed nominations for the same seats, while many leaders have filed papers as independent candidates after being snubbed by their parties. Santya is here with the details. Santya, a game of musical chairs underway in Maharashtra.
Yes, absolutely. Maharashtra's seat-sharing situation remains chaotic as the election draws near. With the last day for nomination having passed on Tuesday, neither of the major alliances has finalized candidates for all the assembly segments. Not just that, in fact, on many seats, the allies of both sides are fighting against their own partners. In Mumbai metropolitan region alone, there are at least 9 seats where both alliances have candidates running against their own partners. Notably, the Shinde Sena has fielded candidates in Anushakti Nagar and Shivaji Nagar against those from the NCP Ajit Pawar alliance. Avinash Rane from Shinde Sena is challenging Sana Malik from NCP Ajit Pawar, while Suresh Patil takes on Sana's father Nawab Malik, who is also contesting on a NCP Ajit Pawar ticket. The BJP is also experiencing internal conflicts. Gopal Shetty is contesting as an independent candidate from Borivali. BJP's Atul Shah has filed his nomination as an independent candidate against Shaina NC, who is fighting on Shinde Sena's ticket from Mumba Devi. Geeta Jain is fighting against BJP's Narendra Mehta and Meera Bhayandar and has filed her nomination as an independent candidate. Shinde Sena's Swikriti Sharma, infamous cop Pradeep Sharma's wife, has filed her nomination from Andheri East as an independent candidate. And Shinde Sena's Vaibhav Bharatkar has also filed his nomination from Dindoshi as an independent candidate and is fighting against Shinde Sena's Sanjay Nirupam. In Kurla, Uddhav Thackeray's candidate Praveena Murachkar faces off against Milind Kamble from the NCP-SP. In Shivaji Nagar, Congress and its partner NCP-SP has fielded candidates against each other, and Samajwadi Party's Abu Azmi is also contesting from Shivaji Nagar. This is undoubtedly the most complicated and messy election of the recent times.
Yes, it certainly is. Santya, many thanks for joining us. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. Do stay tuned to CNBC-TV18. The news will continue right here. We're back after a very short break.